I want to talk to you guys about the biggest difference between the first Wonder Woman and its sequel, and it kind of doesn't have anything to do with Wonder Woman.
What can I say? I'm not that exciting.
Hey guys, it's Sean O'Connell, the managing editor here at CinemaBlend, and now that you guys have had a chance to see Wonder Woman 1984, I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about something that has been on my mind regarding the biggest difference between Patty Jenkins's original Wonder Woman film and the sequel, Wonder Woman 1984. And the fact that I left the new movie not really focused on the hero of the title, and I think that that's pretty important.
Yeah.
Before I do that, of course, go down, hit subscribe, turn on your notifications. We're going to be talking a lot about Wonder Woman 1984 here on the YouTube page over the next couple of weeks because it's a huge blockbuster in the world of DC. And that's what we do here, as you can tell from my Superman shirt.
I am not a con man!
The biggest difference between the two movies for me is the use of the villains and the fact that I could barely remember who the villains are for the origin story because it placed all of its focus on the development of Gal Gadot and Diana and Wonder Woman, which is needed to do. Like, it makes sense that the first Wonder Woman movie should focus on her origin story in Themyscira, the reason why she would leave the island, her relationship with Steve Trevor, the chemistry between Gal Gadot and Chris Pine, and all of the reasons why this Amazonian warrior who had been protected by her people for the longest time would have to choose to go into our own world, which is fraught with peril and get involved with wars that don't involve her people, but sort of building her up to become the superhero savior that she is. Patty Jenkins takes that model for Wonder Woman 1984 and sort of flips it on its head and focuses far less on Diana and puts more of her attention into the two main villains. And so I think that the main villains are the scene stealers and the takeaway from Wonder Woman 1984 in a way that the villains of the original Wonder Woman just simply weren't.
Well, cheers to us.
And I know that ultimately Ares and what was her name? Dr. Poison or something? Like, I can't even remember what the name of her character was.
Now I see your attention is elsewhere.
And I love the Wonder Woman movie. I love the first Wonder Woman movie, but I love it because of Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor primarily. I left Wonder Woman 1984 raving about the villains. I thought Pedro Pascal as Maxwell Lord was a phenomenal villain who got elevated to the level of a Lex Luthor, and the way that he was pulling off his crimes and the level of a power grab that he was trying to go after. By turning himself into the Dreamstone and then working his way up the power chain to grant wishes to more and more powerful people, but to draw more of their power from them, was an ingenious way for this character who had been spinning his wheels as an oil magnate and failing. That's exactly what he would do if he was given the power of this miraculous stone. And I loved even early on when he was using his charisma to charm Barbara at the Smithsonian, to throw a little bit of his empty wealth around, to somewhat be a father figure to his son, but to clearly portray the fact that he had other things in mind and didn't necessarily want to get bogged down by the responsibility that comes with being a parent, but wanting to do all the things that he was doing to make the lives of himself and his family better. People get lost in the cloud of why they're doing a lot of things that they do. And I thought that there were a lot of really interesting shades to Maxwell Lord that might not have come through unless you had a really great performance from Pedro Pascal. So I wanted to see more of him. I'm really glad that they kept him around at the end of the film because I think Max is a character that we could continue to explore in other Wonder Woman sequels. He could be an ally for certain aspects, the way that Lex is almost walking the thin line between being helpful to the Justice League, but also being one of their greatest threats. Like, Lex is always playing both sides, and Max Lord seems to have the ability to play both sides.
I'm feeling generous.
Cheetah also is one of these villains who really could have gone over the line into camp very easily. It's a complicated character that works well on the page, but when you try to bring her into live action, I could see how you'd struggle. And even if you try to take a more realistic approach to her, it would almost strip away what makes her interesting. Kristen Wiig figures out how to make Barbara really relatable and compassionate, and you feel for her and you want her to succeed, just not the way that she chooses to go about getting her power. And that becomes a complicated, slippery slope that I found more interesting than any of the stuff that was going on with Diana.
That's right. Get used to it.
Diana in this movie almost exists to move the stories of her villains forward. And there are some complicated emotional things that she has to go through, primarily with her relationship with Steve, and her place with where she got left off toward the end of the first Wonder Woman movie, and moving forward here and the lessons that she's learning from the other villains. But there are chunks of Wonder Woman 1984, and if you're watching this, you made it this far into the video, hopefully by now you have seen the movie, where Wonder Woman, the actual hero of Wonder Woman, disappears. Like, she appears for the first few minutes of the movie. It's that superhero fight in the mall, which is featured heavily in the trailers. And then it's a lot of Diana, and it's a lot of Barbara, and it's a lot of Max Lord, and it's a lot of character development. And I'm pretty sure that Wonder Woman doesn't show up until at least an hour later, which is the convoy truck fight in Cairo. So it's a long time without Wonder Woman. And the back half more than makes up for that with the White House fight, and of course the Cairo sequence being as phenomenal as it is, the Golden Armor fight and Cheetah and Maxwell Lord. There's plenty of Wonder Woman to come. But there are long periods where the emphasis falls on the villains, and I was okay with that. And that doesn't happen in the initial Wonder Woman film. The initial Wonder Woman film is seen through the point of view of Diana fully from start to finish, and it needs to be. Like, it honestly has to be her story. But now that her story has sort of been told and the foundation has been laid, Patty Jenkins felt free to sort of build up the world, give more time to the villains, round out the bigger picture. And I think that that is the biggest difference between the sequel and the original film. And truthfully, I was okay with it, because I think that this is an interesting corner of the DC universe that we don't see a whole heck of a lot of. There's a heavy emphasis in the DC universe on Batman and Batman's world, and we all know Gotham, and we know the Gotham villains. But Wonder Woman hasn't yet been given the opportunity over the course of just these two films to really expand out her world. So it's nice to take a little pit stop early on to see the Olympic Games that are being played in Themyscira, and to see the Amazonian warriors who are competing in that, to see how competitive little Diana is. It's nice to see other villains who would need to cross paths with Diana, and to see how she sort of interacts with them. And then of course there are some just amazing moments that are part of Diana's growth as a superhero, and her figuring out the full extent of her powers, what she can and what she can't do, that I think can really feed into the power of a third film, and even I think is going to be supplemented when we see how Zack Snyder treats her in his version of Justice League when it comes to HBO Max. So stepping away from Wonder Woman 1984, I kind of felt like the movie belonged to its villains. I think that was fine, but when we get around to potentially a third Wonder Woman film, no matter how many years it takes to get to that point, I think it's okay to start going back in the other direction now, to put more emphasis on Wonder Woman.
Just me.
To sort of put her through some severe obstacles and really make her grow more as a character, even though you gave a lot of screen time to the villains in this one, maybe at the detriment to the development of the character, of the main character of Wonder Woman. But when the characters ended up being as fascinating as Cheetah and Max Lord, I was okay with it. I'm curious to find out if you guys were as well. Hit me up in the comments down below and let me know how you guys thought that Wonder Woman 1984 handle the development of Diana, and also whether you are on board with me in saying that the villains were one of the most compelling elements of the film. While you're in the comment section, of course, hit subscribe and turn on new notifications. That way, every time that we post a brand new video here on CinemaBlend, you guys will be the very first ones to hear about it.